Hi, good morning, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Hi. Okay. All right. So, welcome. My name is Umaira. I'm so glad that I could see you guys around here. Okay. So, without further ado, let me share my screen. Okay. All right. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Okay. So, yeah. Before I start with the session, I just want to remind you guys that um just so you remember before anything that you do for your interview session, so as mentioned on the title, it's a professional narrative in an interview. So a narrative is a story. Okay, so how do you create your professional story is you will need to see beyond your resume. So first thing first, you will need to have a resume, and that is how you create your professional narrative in an interview. Okay, so let me introduce myself officially. My name is Umaira Surhan, and I graduated from Taylor's University in under Bachelor of Business with International Business and Marketing honors back in 2018, and then I was in KPMG Taylor's ambassadors for 2020 and 2021. Okay, and then since then I began my journey as a vacation trainee. Okay, so vacation trainee is what we call ourselves as an intern with KPMG. Okay, and that was when in 2019 and 2020. So the timing here is a bit off. Okay? And then I started working with KPMG right after I graduated in 2021. And so forth and so on. I'm still with them as a talent acquisition and external branding. My job roles is as a career advisor, which I a gatekeeper for an internship for advisory and also for business support role in KPMG Malaysia. All right, and besides that, my job roles also inclusive of onboarding session, welcoming all the vacation trainees, and also a guest speaker as of I am today. All right. And then, all right, so moving on with our topic for today. Okay, I would like to introduce to you what are we going to learn today is basically understanding the interview process. I would want you to understand what is interview is actually, what are the stages of interviews, and what to prepare for your interview session, and how to create a positive first impression. Okay, so I will along the way I will give you guys an experience of my own on how positive and how to create first impression. Okay, and then how to craft a strong interview responses. So basically how for you to talk in confidence, and like how do you prepare for that, and how do you handle difficult interview questions, and also a tip for virtual interviews. Okay, all right, so crafting your professional narrative. Okay, so first and foremost, what is important is what I mentioned earlier, which is your resume. Okay, so your resume can be full, your resume can be half empty, your resume can be not as much of achievements, your resumes can be not as much of extracurricular activities, or not as much of skills that you can write it on your resumes, but that those are not important as long as you could create a story beyond it. Okay, so what you need to understand in an interview is the type of interview, and what are interview questions for your job roles, and the interview stages in every interview session. Okay, so type of interview includes screening, which is telephone interview. Okay, so screening telephone interview is pretty generic. Okay, because they would want to know how your behavioral are, how do you think in that exact moment. So basically screening and telephone interview usually occurs surprisingly. Okay, so we will just call you, and then we'll just tell you like, hey, I'm Umaira from KPMG Malaysia, and we would want to have a brief introduction, or we would want to have a brief interview session with you, just to get to know you. Okay, so that's pretty generic. Like we just want to get to know you based on how do you pick up a surprise call. Okay, and then individual interview. Okay, so individual interview can go on virtually or could go on in physical as well. So individual interview, so they'll give you a like a proper time lah. So they'll create a schedule for you, and you need to come on site. And then so it's just basically you and the recruiter itself. Okay, so individual interview is very direct. It is somewhat similar to telephone interview, but individual is scheduled. Okay, and then they will have a just one to one, just to get to know you better, more in how you deal with business case study, or business case study questions, or how they want to know how you reacted with pressure questions and many others. Okay, and then small group interview is basically you'll be in a group regardless if it's a technical assessment like a business case study group interview, or it will be just a very generic small group interview. Say for example, like I have 5 people interview in one room, and then they just want to know you, how do you answer the questions, each and every one of you, which answered better, or which one gives out a better confidence among another, or who's overshadowing another, or who shadows another. Yeah. And then the second or on-site interview is usually with the recruiter, or sometimes it is also recruiter and the hiring manager, or it could be you and the hiring manager itself. Okay, because the second on-site interview is basically you went through a seamless process with the recruiter, and then now it's the final stage, which is the second interview with the hiring manager. Okay, because hiring manager would have the bigger say whether to approve you or to disapprove you. Okay, so the second one with the hiring manager is basically the important ones, where you will need to give your best, right? And there's no competing, because it's just you and the hiring manager itself. And then the last one is the task oriented interview. So this task oriented interview is basically technical assessment, and sometimes this technical assessment is for you to answer on your own or like via email. So I'll just send you a technical assessment for you to answer, and then you get back to them on the same day, or maybe given a period of time for you to revert the answers afterwards. So those are task oriented interviews. So type of interview, usually it goes from telephone interview, individual interview, or small group interview, and then the second or on-site interview with hiring manager, and lastly is the task oriented interview. All right, and then the second one is an interview question. So there are a lot of interview questions. I mean, generic one, it would say behavioral questions and communication questions. So behavioral questions and communications, I would like to put it as one, because the normal questions will ask you like tell me about yourself, tell me what is your biggest achievement, tell me about like how would you communicate, or how would you lead a team, and so on. So those are behavioral and communication questions. It's pretty generic. I would always tell my students like when this comes is basically we want to know your communication skills and also your interpersonal skills, like how would you react and so on. And opinion questions is to ask you like how would you feel about something, or how would you handle something, right? Like what are your challenges. Performance based questions is also similar as opinion questions. Like we would want to know your we would ask like the example of how would you perceive this, or how would you um project this, or how would you become a leader if this happened, yeah, and so on, so on. All right, so those are interview questions. So basically interview questions, I would advise for you to look through your achievements or your leadership experiences, and conclude that when you answer this type of questions, you conclude that as an example. So this is how you help to create your narrative. Okay, so this is a story of your own, but you're just telling it to your career advisors. Okay, and then lastly is the interview stages, which is normal, which is stage 1 until stage 4. So basically your introduction about yourself, the Q&A by the career advisors, Okay. And then also stage 3, which is your questions, if you have questions for the interviewer. And then after that, the closing. So the closing, which is we would tell you guys like, okay, so thank you so much for coming in, and then we'll pursue application, and should you go through, we will tell you so on, so on, so on. All right. Okay. Next one is the preparing for the interview. Okay, so what should you prepare for your interview? So first and foremost is really, really important for you to do a research of the company and the position that you're applying for. Okay, because it adds on the bonus. If you know about the company and you know about the position that you're applying for, it's a bonus that the career advisors actually sees your vision on. Okay, so this kid is such a good future employee, all right? Because we wouldn't want to like, it usually occurs when we phone screen you and we'll ask you like, okay, so why KPMG? What do you know about KPMG? So generic questions, generic answers, students will give us or fresh grads or people out there, they will just tell us, oh, because KPMG is one of big four. You should revise your answer before you answer that kind of answers. Okay. So are you sure that KPMG is a big four, or is it just another big four? All right. So there's more onto that. Okay. KPMG is what? Okay. So a few tips and tricks about, say, if you would want to apply for KPMG, you always need to say KPMG is a professional services firm, which consists of three main services line, which is audit, tax, and advisory. Okay, so that's a complete answer for KPMG. So this is why researching about the KPMG, researching about the company before you attend the interview is really, really important. So we don't just assume that, oh, you answer KPMG as a big four. So there's always a better one than another. Okay. And then second is prepare a specific interview questions. Okay, so now you know that those are the types of questions like behavioral, opinion questions, communication on questions. Okay, so prepare a generic one. So this is why, if you, okay, say if you don't feel like preparing those because you think that it's mostly common sense, you're right. It is basically common sense because it's from your resume. So you're telling a narrative from your resumes. So the interview questions will come out from your resumes as well. Okay. So always prepare what types of questions or what type of answers that you could answer from the interview that you have prepared. Okay. So basically it's together, it works together. Your resume and your interview practices comes together. So always look through your resumes, because that is how you tell a narrative about yourself to the interviewer. So you cannot just like shy away. So that's why I always practice, 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 because you're telling a story about yourself. So boast about yourself to a career advisors. Okay. And then dress for success. So regardless if it's an individual interview or group interview or even a virtual interview. Okay. So always dress for success. Always dress to impress, because that is how an interviewer, such as myself, career advisors, and also hiring manager, sees you for the first impression. All right, because first impression is important. All right, so these are the pre-interview stages. So this is similar to interview preparations. So always, okay, another tips is to contact people that are already working in the job. Okay, so this is why LinkedIn is really important. Okay, we'll go on until the next session. All right, so contacting person who are, okay, for example, if you would want to find a pretty straightforward examples. For example, myself, you don't want to be a career advisor, you would want to be a speaker, or you feel like I want to do a lot more in KPMG and contribute an impact. So for example, the impact is like myself, I'm being a speaker, which creates an impact to the other students in varieties of universities, right? So the correct person is, you could contact myself, you could contact me and ask me like, what is it like to be in the job, or maybe you ask me like, what are the skills that are needed to be in the same role as you are. Okay, another example, say if you want to be in technology consulting. Okay, so technology consulting are a lot in KPMG. It could be in IT enabled transformation. You could do business intelligence. You could do something that has to do with Python and so on. So you could contact person that is in technology consulting in KPMG, or maybe it could not be specific in KPMG. It could be in different other companies which focuses on technology consulting itself, like HP or maybe Dell, or it could be with different other big fours as well, right? Because those kind of knowledge, like the questions that you ask from the people who are currently in the job, pretty much helps you in understanding better on your job roles as well. So that's also a plus point when you are doing an interview with your interviewers. Okay, and then so mindset, okay, are always have a positive mindset that you're going to nail this. All right, you're going to succeed this. All right, so never have a different mindset that okay, I mean, I just want to try this out. It is never wrong to try things out, but always have possibility that, okay, I'm trying this for a better growth of myself. Because one interview could not surpass a different other interviewers. So what I'm trying to say is that always, like, your mindset could always changes from I'm going to get this to it's just a practice. Okay, so you could have a multiple interviews at the same month or at the same time, so because you would want to learn or gain experience from it. Okay, or maybe you could have uh various interview sessions with different other companies, with various companies, because you really want to nail a job. But what if like one doesn't succeed and another one doesn't succeed as well, or like you have five interviews and all five doesn't succeed? So change your mindset and say and think of it as a practice. Okay, so one interview doesn't mean that you're going to continue doing the same thing in that interview, if you get what I mean. I hope you get what I mean. Okay, because so basically mindset is really important. Either you take it as I'm gonna get this job, or multiple failures comes and you be like down. So no, never take an rejection as something that is like a bad luck. Take rejection as something that you can learn from it. Okay, so that's why mindset is important. And then do your employee research, yes, company research, and contact people that you would want to do a job with. Practice questions. So basically, practice questions is mostly from your resumes. Okay, so plan ahead and rehearse your presentation. So rehearse your presentation, as mentioned, also like always work together with your resumes. All right, because your resumes is your cheat sheet. Okay, your resumes is what you have written about yourself, and that is how you create a narrative, you create a story about yourself. So what I always say to my students is that your resumes is your Bible. Okay, your resumes is whatever it is in there telling about yourself. Okay, so you have to create a story about yourself in a simpler manner, in an interesting way, to your career advisors or to your recruiters. Okay, so that is how you your rehearse your presentation according together along with your practice questions and um your planning ahead. Okay, so the different others, like contacting the career people or employee research, and your mindset is just a plus points. All right. All right, and then this is the frequently asked interview questions. Okay, so yes, as mentioned, like as myself, I'm a recruiter myself. I will always want to know about yourself. How do you handle stress and pressure? What is your great weaknesses? What motivates you? So this is basically the questions from your resumes. It's just that we want to know how do you tell a story about yourself according to the resumes. Okay, so that's why you will need to have a plus points. Okay, and then also make it more fun, like not fun in terms of unprofessionally fun. How we see, like how your body language is, how your tone is also important. Okay, so we would want to want to understand better from a personal side, and how do you make it professionally. Yeah, so that is how you could share about yourself. Okay, and also be overwhelming, but not too overwhelming. All right. And also be honest, because we always would want to cross check you. We always do a background check on you as well. And when we ask you about what motivates you, so always keep the job in mind. Okay. Always consider the company culture, share an example, and also be honest at the same time. Okay. So these are the pro tip that you could actually use for. All right. Because this is basically like wherever you go, the recruiters will always ask you the same thing. Tell me about yourself, okay? And what is your passion? What motivates you? Or why do you choose the job? Why this company? Right? So always prepare the basic and generic questions that interviewers could ask. All right. Another way, okay, so another way is star technique. Okay. So whenever we ask you a question, for example, tell me about one of your challenges. Tell me about your significant challenges. Okay, so you could use this technique, star technique. So you could describe a situation that you are in, and then explain to them briefly about the task that you completed, and tell us the actions. Okay, once you already tell the actions, you could tell the results. And these results, so this star is basically we understand, oh, you had these sorts of tasks and this is your challenges, and this is the action that you take. All right, and then this is the result, this is the outcome of that of the situation. All right, so this is how you prepare another way of for not behavioral but mostly on the um challenges or I would say behavioral questions lah. Like you were once becoming a president of KPMG ambassador. So tell us about the challenges that you had, the significant challenges that you had. Or you could tell us like what was the significant weaknesses that you could come up that happened to you during the time of your presidency or something like that. So use this star technique. Okay, anything that has to do with your achievements or things that you manage with your colleagues and so on, or your peers or your studies, even you could use this technique, right? Okay, and then what do I bring to the interview? Okay, so this is more relevant if you are doing an on-site interview, okay? So or even like maybe during your virtual interview, okay? So I had interviews with an interviewee. So it's just a virtual interview. So what he prepared that I could actually acknowledge is that he dressed to impress, okay? Even though it's just like half year only. So always dress to impress. And secondly is prepare a notebook with you, okay? So that's the least that you could do in a virtual interview. Always prepare a note with you, okay? So a note doesn't necessarily about your questions that you would want to ask your interview, your recruiter. What you could do is you could write it down, jot down on what is being briefed with you. Maybe you would want to know more about the job. So those are the questions and you could write it down, because after that, after it say your process with your recruiters go through success to the second interview or on the interview with the hiring manager, you could cross check with the hiring manager, like, is this the job post that you would require me to do, just to cross check whether from what your recruiter had mentioned with your hiring manager. Okay, so that's why always always look good. Okay, always bring several copies of your resumes and cover letter. Make sure you look nice. Okay, make sure you have a proper pen, a proper note taking. Okay, so these simple small details we also actually look for you, so that is how we actually see you. Okay, like how impressed you are towards us, because first impression is really important. And then always have a copy of job posting so you understand that this is a job that you actually would want to do. Okay, always have your personal calendar on, so make sure that you're on time. Okay, and know who are your interviewers are. And then yeah, make sure have a breath refreshener, and then always brush your hair, comb your hair, make sure you look neat. Okay, always look neat. Okay, next is the interview stage. Okay, so this is during the interview session. Okay, all right. So what usually recruiters do is we have the first 30 seconds of your interview session before we have the hiring managers comes in. Okay, so that is where you prepare yourself, make sure you are ready, make sure you have a very like a vision. Okay, a straight vision, a clear direction of how your expectations on this interview session is gonna be. Okay, so make sure you be aware of your vocal tone and your volume as well, because you could always go wrong with a vocal tone. Like maybe you thought that you're just talking, but to them you could be screaming. Okay, so make sure to control, or say if you're answering questions like your vocal tone is somewhat sarcastic. Yeah, so we also look at that as well. So make sure to be aware of your vocal tone and volume and how do you answer your questions is. Okay, and then always repeat the recruiter's name and make sure to get their name. Okay, and then maintain a good posture, show confidence and poise. Okay, so confidence is really really important. So that is how we know that you're in it to win it. Okay, without confidence we would think that you're just a uh, another candidate who would want to try an opportunity with a firm. Okay, and then clear introduction. So that's why all these things is very important for you to always practice first. Okay, all right, during the interview, another tip is that always listen to the questions carefully before you answer. Okay, listen, always listen to the questions before you could come up with a good answer, not just a vague answer, not just an answer and you repeat yourself. Okay, so that's why you always need to take time when you answer and respond positively. So that's why you need to be aware of your vocal tone and your volume. Respond positively with your mindset that like okay, so this is how I would answer my questions. This is how I would answer to your questions, and so on, so on, so on. Okay, always be positive about it. Never have like I'm not too like your answer like, oh, I'm actually not too sure because I had a like experience on it. Never answer that kind of never answer that kind of answers before. Okay, you should be like, if you're unsure about how to answer a question, you could be like, come up with a situation. So that's why you always have this technique. Okay, always practice this technique, the star technique. So create a situation, right? So about like you answer like, okay, so I had this type of situation previously and I went through this with my members, and we come up with this kind of action plans, and suddenly without we wouldn't expect a challenges to happen, but it happened. So how we were intrigued, and how we process how do we process these challenges is via ABCD plan, yada yada yada. Okay, so always respond positively, not like, oh, I'm not too sure about this type of situation because I haven't had it before, or oh, I've never occurred to this type of challenges because for me it's just like pretty easy. Never. There will always a situation where you had this, it's just haven't come across to your mind. So that is why preparations is really really important. Okay, and then ask, okay, so when it comes to questions, ask insightful questions, not like, okay, how much is the salary that you're offering me. Never ask about salary in the first in your interview session, because salary comes after when you're already been offered. Okay, so once you're being offered to the job position, to the job post, then you could ask about salary. That is how that is the appropriate time for you to bargain about your salary and also your benefits. Okay, not during the interview, because during the interview you want to know more about the job roles, whether you're gonna like it, or is the company culture you're gonna adapt with it. So those are the important ones. Okay, show insightful questions, like maybe ask about your growth. Say if you're keen on the job post, where could I see myself growing in the industry, or where could I see myself growing with the projects that about going to happen in the department, and so on, so on, so on. Okay, And then okay, so how do you close your interview like a pro? Okay, so it's like how you pitch like a sales pitch. Okay, so mention anything relevant that you feel that is important, so you could repeat about your sales pitch as you show enthusiasm for the job. So you could repeat like, oh, okay, so I'm pretty sure that I could be the right fit for this position because I was once handling this type of challenges, and I could foresee myself in the future doing the same attempt the same challenges or even better, working with team members and so on. So you already create a narrative about yourself to the interviewers. Now you have to repeat about that narrative. The important points. It's like a summary of your narratives, and tell them to the interviewers for you to close it. Okay, because you could expect the interviewers, like for example, like you could expect me to close this session, but wouldn't it be greater, like wouldn't it would look like a great impression that you could close this session? All right, like you repeat what I just mentioned, you repeat the summary of this session, and then it could show to me like, oh, you're actually enthusiastic about this session. Okay, so this is an example. Okay, but these are the examples that you could do during the interviews time. Okay, and then take the employee's business card and thank him or her later, so that you could follow up like, how was your interview session before? Or maybe you could say, maybe you could ask like, what do you think that I could improve on during my interview session, and so on and so on. Okay, and then yep, ask what's next step is in the hiring process. Okay, so you could know like what to expect and so on. Okay, so these are the strong interview responses. Okay, so always have a structured responses. So this is why I will always ask you to go back to your resume. So your resume should be in order, in orderly matter. Okay, make sure it's in structured position. Always have about your bachelor degree, your university, and then your work experience if you have, and then your leadership achievements and so on. Okay, so always have in orderly manner. Okay, and then always create a specific example and demonstrate skills and experience. So basically use STAR. All right, it really helps you, and avoid common interview mistakes. So common interview mistakes is like just a very minor mistakes, like late for the interview session, or unpreparedness. You always have a gap time when you're answering your questions and so on, like you look clueless and so on. Never. Okay. Okay, so since I already mentioned to you guys, let's see a video. Okay, wait, hold on. I'm not too sure if... Okay, let me know if you guys can hear this, okay?
Arguably the most crucial part of the job search, an interview can make or break an opportunity. So to help you really prepare...
Okay, hold on. Can you hear, right? Let me try it again. Um, okay, by now you guys can hear it, right?
We're going to dissect and analyze an entire, arguably the most crucial part of the job search. An interview can make or break an opportunity. So to help you really prepare, we're going to dissect and analyze an entire interview from start to finish. I'll be sprinkling in a mix of tips about body language, etiquette, and how to answer common questions. Like, when exactly does the interview start? How do you deal with nerves? And how soon can you follow up? For years, athletes have used science and data analysis to improve. Now, we are doing the same for job seekers everywhere. This is job science. Meet Anya, a recent grad majoring in business administration. She's interviewing for an entry-level project management position. Note her posture. Head up, shoulders pulled back, no slouching, and no laid backness. The interview begins the minute you walk into the building. Anya treats everyone in the office with respect while keeping eye contact. From security personnel to receptionists, anyone you run into on your way in could be asked to give feedback on you. It's normal to be nervous. When nerves kick in, the natural human response is to take short breaths and breathe faster. Stay calm by taking a deep breath before entering. Hold it, Count to 3 and then slowly breathe out. Pause. First, ace those introductions. Greet everyone in a way that is authentic to you, like, hey, nice to meet you, and then say their name. That one always works. You know, you're more likely to remember their name if you say it out loud when you first meet. A lot of the time, small talk comes up before any questions. It's good to have a few current events or topics in mind. You can't possibly predict what they're going to ask, but you can practice answering the common ones, like, why do you want to work here? What makes you unique? Let's see what our interviewer asks.
So I want to hear more. Tell me a little about your experience and what you'd bring to this role.
Pause. When this is asked, they're looking to learn what makes you stand out. Be honest with your answers. If that means having to pause and think for a second, that is all right. Think about your past experiences and how the role lines up with your future goals. It never hurts to be honest.
Great question. Ever since I was young, I've always been the organized one in my family. Whether it was helping my parents schedule vacations or color coordinating my closet, naturally that lifestyle got me here, project management. I've been a people person for as long as I can remember. Plain and simple, I love team building and making sure everyone has a part. Just the other month.
Ooh, just really quick, don't speak negatively about previous places you've worked. Instead, talk about what you've learned.
I helped lead a team of 5 to deliver a 3-week sales project a few days ahead of schedule. I'd love to bring these things here.
Perfect. A response like this not only answers the question, but also shows off her personality. But remember, there's no one right way to interview and answer questions. Be yourself and let your personality shine. Be aware of your movements. Practice polite, confident body language. Subtly miming your interviewer's posture can actually create a sense of connection. Of all places, unnecessary movements are hard to ignore in an interview. Whether it's tapping your fingers or bouncing your leg, be aware and stay present.
Hey, it's been great chatting so far. I guess my last question is, do you have any questions for me?
Ooh, this is a hot one. Make sure to have a short list of questions for your employer in your back pocket. Ask the questions you would if you got the job. If tomorrow was your first day, what would you want to know from the manager? Even if you don't have any burning questions, asking a few shows that you did your homework and that you really care. Some include, what do you like best about working here? What are some mistakes people have made in this position? What is a goal you're currently working toward? How will my performance be evaluated?
Well, I did read that you're expanding your software team next quarter. I'm curious how you plan to carry that out.
The interview isn't actually over. Always follow up within 24 hours with a thank you email to the hiring manager. This can be a quick note simply thanking them for their time, or a longer one that elaborates on some of the things you talked about. It's key to leaving a lasting impression. This was the breakdown of an interview. Till next time.
All right. So yeah, those are the summary of like what I've just mentioned it to you and showing you an example. Okay. All right. So professional narrative. Okay. So professional narrative is always about creating your identity, creating your mindset, personal branding, becoming a team player, being an all-rounder, and also your business communication. Okay. So this is like the overall of what I've mentioned it to you, and also the video had introduced to you as well. Okay. So always go in this row, always goes in this period, sorry, time. Okay. So always have like create your identity, make sure that your mindset is agile and effective and productive in work. Have already developed the skill sets, all right, and then create your own personal branding in you dress to impress, and then your words. Maybe you could quote someone, okay, that holds very deeply to you, and then show that you're a team player, all right, because like you're working in a company, you're not gonna work alone. It's always working in a team, right? And how would you be able to be a team player? So that's what you need to like always have a sense of accountability and responsibility when you're answering the questions, Okay. And then being an all-rounder. So you would want to be a clear choice for those who doesn't even get to know you. So being an all-rounder means to say that like you'll be able to adapt in not just a specific job role or a specific task, but you could go through a different other tasks. Okay. And business communication, make sure you always stay up to date with the current progress and phenomena to stay ahead of the game. So this is a bonus point actually. So like I mentioned, creating a network, contact a career person who are already inside the job is somewhat a plus, is a plus point, okay, for you to understand more. And maybe you could use that you could use that tip, okay, with you could use that tip when you're telling a story or a situation, that could, how to say, like a reference. Yeah, you could use that as a reference, which also adds on to the bonus point that we can tell like, oh, you're actually a well-rounded person, you know everything, you know it all, but actually you're just like doing your research last night. So yeah, it's possible. Okay. And then this is how you prepare for your job. You need to know yourself, like like we actually acknowledge your strength and your you need to have a developed growth and mindset for you to always not just stick to your own job, okay, because like nowadays like people just stay in one job for 1 year, but you could see like at the like previously like previous years, like a person like an associate could be there for 3 to 5 years. So sometimes it's not about the job itself, sometimes it's about the culture. So always know and be agile to what do you want and what do you seek in a company, okay? Is it this money? Is it the company culture? Is it the job? Or is it what? Like you need to analyze that, okay? And then find a mentor, okay? So you could find a mentor in the company or you could find a mentor outside of the company, okay? Outside of company, maybe like someone that is currently doing the same thing as you are, or even better, or even like a mentor with a director position or a manager position. You could never not find a mentor. There will always be a mentor around you, okay? Maybe your friends, your peers could also be your mentor in like how they could like enhance their confidence and so on, okay? And networking, yes, okay. So networking, always find a group that shares a common interest, okay, for you to have a growth mindset as well, for you to be able to see in the future or in the industry where could you go from point A to point B, okay? And never limit your industry of choice, okay? For example, like myself, I'm in the administration industry, I'm in the HR industry, but I wouldn't want to just limit myself in this in this HR industry, because there's so many other things that I could do besides HR, because I have the skills, okay? So maybe I could go for sales, business development, I could go in consulting. So never limit, okay? You need to see where your visions are, like from this period of time, what do you want to garner, and then what do you want to gain, and what do you want to absorb, and then a different period of time, like from what you had garnered in these first 5 years, what could you see yourself that you could develop or enhance, or you could grow from in 5 years time with the skills that you already grasp in the first 5 years, okay? Yeah. And okay, to sum up, what you need to avoid is manners and rudeness, speaking poorly of your past employers, okay, and flirt with interviewer. Never flirt, okay. Never whine or complain about your bad lucks or about your previous job, okay. And as I also mentioned, never discuss your salary and benefits until you manage to get an offer, okay. And then what you need to do is um sorry, okay, always show interest, uh send a person send a personalized or powerful follow-up letter, keep thinking and learning about the company, accept rejection with grace, okay. So this is what I mentioned to you. Many, yeah, if you garner many interviews from various companies, it will never be 100% that you're gonna get, okay. There might be a rejection along the way. So how do you take rejections is having a mindset that, oh, you're learning, you're experiencing the interview, from what could you do better from the first interview to the second interview. Okay, never not like accept rejection with a growth mindset. Okay, not all rejection equals to bad luck. Okay, some rejections is about understanding about like how could you do better, or maybe it was not meant to you because your skills doesn't need it in that kind of jobs. Okay, but it's never wrong in trying. Okay. Okay. All right. So these are a few trainings. What can we help with the trainings? Like from KPMG, from our side, what we could provide to you guys if soft skills and future proofing coverage. So you will learn more about keeping your story and career insights. So this will be better for you, say, if you got an interview session with KPMG. Now you can tell what KPMG is. Like the tips that I tell you about, like KPMG is a professional services firm instead of you answering, oh, KPMG is just another big four and a competing company is this and that. Okay, never. So and then you could build a winning resume and cover letter with us, how we groom you on the business etiquette, conquering communications, and many others. So these are the lists that it will never be exhaustive to us because we want our undergraduates and fresh graduates and also like other people out there who are interested in joining us learn about this type of things because it's not something new, it's always the same thing, but it's just that add on values to when you had the chance to do an interview with us or maybe with other different companies. You could use this as well. And then say if you want to know more about the services line, we could host a guest lecture coverage. So you will know about like what to expect when you're applying for this job post or you're applying for this job role, or if you're applying for this services line, like what could you expect and so on. And what could you add on to the value as a plus point for a reference when you're doing an interview session with your recruiters. Okay. So these have been we had been doing this previously since the start of our KPMG ambassadors since 2020. All right. So we had virtual events previously, but we now are going to have physical events, okay, hopefully. And these are the future proofing workshops that we had with different other universities. And then we had subject matter workshops with our managers, with our directors, okay, with our senior partners as well, okay. So you could learn more about it. All right. And then LinkedIn. Okay. So this is actually a bonus. So why LinkedIn is actually important is because you could build your personal brand and grow professional network, build opportunities, discover opportunities, and also learn. So from the network, as mentioned previously, network or contact a person that is currently in the job that you would want to apply for. Okay. So you could reach them out via LinkedIn. Okay. Because I mean, you couldn't like you could reach them out via Instagram, but it seems weird to me. Okay, if you reach out to me on Instagram, I'll feel like, oh, like how did you get my Instagram? I mean, Instagram is actually like a social media. It's actually a private space for some people. Okay, so LinkedIn is actually like a good platform for you to reach out to people and understand more about the job opportunities. Okay, on like how do you see like how do these people views about what they're doing and about the job posts that they're currently opening and so on. Okay, so that's why build your approach in LinkedIn. Okay, and then make sure your LinkedIn have a name headline, not just like a you cannot see LinkedIn as a social media. You need to see LinkedIn as a professional platform in the social media industry. Okay, so this is how when you approach a person like me myself, I would see like, oh, okay, this profile actually is pretty impressive. Like you manage this event, you have a lot of these attributes, you have this list of achievements, where do you study and so on. So that is how I see. That is my first impression towards you. Okay. So say if you already approach me on Instagram and my first impression to you is already weird. So would you think that I would want to reach out to you on Instagram? Okay, and see if your LinkedIn is empty without any posts or without any followings or without any like just a very brand new LinkedIn, and out of nowhere just approach me asking about like what do you do, I would assume that I would assume that you're a scammer or something like that because I got afraid. Okay, so that's why always build your LinkedIn profile professionally before you approach a person in LinkedIn. Okay, because you cannot see LinkedIn as a social media. You need to see LinkedIn as a business platform. Okay, a professional platform. Okay, because you're approaching people with titles. Maybe like you would, like, if you're dare enough, you could approach a director because your LinkedIn profile is professional enough for you to approach them. It is possible. It could happen. Okay. Never think that it would never happen. Always have a mindset that you want to learn. Always have a mindset that you want to grow. Okay. So never be afraid of reaching out to these people. They are friendly. It's just that the title makes them scary. Okay. But they're just actually human beings. So similar as how I am. But when you approach them, make sure you have a professional attitudes come along with it. Okay. And okay, so this is example. See, if you would want, if you don't have LinkedIn or you already have a LinkedIn, okay, this is how you could actually like improve or enhance your LinkedIn better. Okay, so go home and then click me for you to create all of these things. Okay, like how you could create better. Tell me about yourself on your LinkedIn. Okay, LinkedIn bio and your past experiences. Okay, it doesn't, I mean, to me, it doesn't have to look this lengthy. But say if you have a lot more, then just put on, okay? But I mean, from my point of view, it will be easier if you put a points. Okay, you put like a point one, you involve in strategic planning and execution of KPMG branding. Point two, design and conduct student engagement, and point three, and so on and so forth. Okay. All right. And then yep, and then honors and awards, say you are a ASEAN scholar, or you manage a scholarship with Kijang, or you maintain scholarship with Yayasan, and so on. Write it down, put it down, okay? It's never so wrong. Languages is just an extra. Yeah, organizations is basically like your clubs and societies, okay, that you are participating in. All right. So to sum it up, make sure your resume, you treat it like your LinkedIn as well. Okay, you need to nurture them. You need to always like input something new so that you could create a narrative out of your resume and also in your LinkedIn. Okay, and never tailor your LinkedIn profile to a specific role or a specific employer. Same with your resume as well. Never specific it. Like if you want to put like a about yourself, or very briefly about yourself, never put a specific role, or never brief introduction during the interview session a specific role. Say that, oh, I'm open for a business administration industry, yada yada yada. Never. Okay, never do that. Okay, never. Because then we'll just see like, oh, you can't actually adapt to different other industry. Okay, because we want to see that you're a well-rounder, you're an all-rounder. Okay, always keep your brand voice, image, and tone consistent. So this is what I mentioned also. Always be aware of your vocal, all right, your volume as well. And remember, so yeah, once again, remember, LinkedIn is not is linked in LinkedIn, it's called connections, not being friends with the people. So that's why you need have to have a professional treat it as a professional networking place. Okay, and make full use of your LinkedIn's data and analytics capabilities so that when people reach out to you, or when you reach out to people, they could see like, oh, you're associated with this and this. All right, so okay, so that concludes all of my presentation. Hope that this session is actually useful for you. Okay, and should you have any questions, you could ask right away, or you could connect with me on my LinkedIn. Okay, if you're shy to ask here, but I would prefer if you guys ask here. I mean, it's Saturday. What could go wrong? And it's possible also. Okay, so yep, that is all from me. Thank you guys. Hope that's useful. Oops. Uh,
Okay, thank you, Miss Myra, for wonderful sharing. Now let's continue with Q&A sessions. For those who have questions, you can post in Padlet. Link have been provided in the chat box. All right, I will read the questions. There are a few questions here. So the first question, hi, how do I answer if I get a question about my expected salary range?
Okay, expected salary range. Okay, so okay, kalau for fresh grad, usually for fresh grad, usually like you need to know like what is the in economic right now. Okay, say as mentioned, um it's like around 4,000, something like that. Okay, so you need to make sure that when you're asked about expected salary, you need to value yourself also, like how much is your skills valued. Like say for example, you have a good communication skills, you have good organization skills, you have good management skills, you can have good leadership skills. Okay, so match that skills with the salary scale. Okay, so as mentioned, if the salary scale is around 4,000, so with that add-on skills, maybe you could ask like around 4K to 5K, the range of 4 to 5. Okay, it's never too wrong. Maybe you want to go like 4 to 6K, or maybe a range of 5K itself on its own. Sure, it's never too wrong, because at the end of the day, the hiring manager will go through the range itself. Like they would, because they will be the person who evaluates you through your resume, and they will match your resumes, your skills and whatnot, with the range that you are expecting. Okay, so this is why it is never too wrong. If you have a higher skill, it's fine. Okay, but see, so that's why, so back again with the to expect is that take your rejection with grace. Okay, say they could not meet your expectations salary, it's fine, you could negotiate, you could always negotiate, it's never so wrong. But say if they could not negotiate with you, then it's up to you whether you would want to have it open as an options, or you would consider a different other job positions or other companies. Okay, so yeah, that's my take on it.
Okay, thank you, Miss Myra. Okay, next question. Hi, is it possible to apply for jobs that are not related to our degree? If it is possible, what do they need to do to stand out from others that has that degree?
Okay, so all right, for bachelor degree, if it's not related, but you are passionate in it, then you could go for it. Okay, for example, like myself, I'm from international business and marketing, so I could be doing something that has to do with branding or marketing, something that has to do with consulting industry. Okay, but I ended up in being in HR. Okay, but HR is actually a huge industry. So what you need to know, if you're studying a bachelor degree or you're working in a not related to your degree, you need to understand the industry on its own, because industry is a huge thing. Okay, it's like a globe. Like okay, like we are Malaysia here, but there's like different other countries, right? So yeah, so that's what I meant. Like okay, it could be consulting. Consulting is a huge thing, but it could be in deals, it could be in technology, it could be in management consulting. And in that management consulting, there's another niche it also, like maybe you would want to do in strategy operations, you want to do accounting advisory services, you want to do sustainability services. So there's a lot more. So when you're talking about not related to your degree, you need to understand what is the industry that you would want to go in, and then deep down you have to do your research. Okay, and then also how do you stand up for it is the plus points, which is you understand about the industry, you understand about the job roles, you understand about the people that are currently working, and it relates to this type of references. Okay, and you have the skills, that you have a better skills compared to those who have a bachelor degree and what they are applying for. So for example, I could say you are in a bachelor degree of accounting and finance, and you want to go for audit, but you don't have the skill, you don't have the foundation or the fundamentals, like a person that is in bachelor degree of business or bachelor degree in economics. Okay, you don't have that type of skills, but this bachelor of economics also applying for audit, but they have the skills. So of course we go for the skills, right? Because at the end of the day, you might or might not apply what you learn to your working. your working arena later on. Yeah, because I also have an acquaintance of mine, a friend of mine, who is also a bachelor degree in accounting and finance, but he is currently doing marketing. So it's all about the skills, like because the skills can develops during your time when you're a leader, when you get your achievements, your attributes, and so on. So those are the skills that you need to analyze it on your own on which type of industry that you need to go to. Okay, so yeah, that is how you stand out. Okay, hopefully I answer your questions.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Umaira. Okay, I think maybe we can proceed for the last questions. I think others have been answered by Miss Umaira throughout the slides. So last question. Hi, Miss Umaira. If a person has underlying medical issues, should she or he inform the company early on the interview?
Yes, yes. So regarding medical issues about your mental health or your personal health or anything that is, do you think that is a disruption for your team members later on? Okay, so you need to let them know. Okay, you need to inform them. Comparing to you hide it from them and then you only tell them once you already got the offer, because if you tell them only then it will be a trouble, it will create complications to your team members as well. Okay, so always tell them so that they can that you can also evaluate if they are compassionate enough or not, or are they actually care about your employees or not. So that is how you know the working culture is. Okay, so you could play around. If you tell them, it's it's a good thing, because for me, like if I have health issues, I would need to tell them first, because like I wouldn't want to jump into a job that they are not passionate enough, or they're not compassionate enough, or they're not showing empathy towards the employees, right? So always tell first, okay? Never tell afterwards, okay? But I understand you would want to tell afterwards because you would want to secure a job. But if you secure a job and then they show no mercy to you, so what's good in it also, right? So yeah, it's all about choices that you're gonna make, and the consequences afterwards. Okay, so yeah, I would say yes to this.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Umaira, for the sharings and answers. With end with the Q&A session, it marks the end of our program. All participants are required to open camera for photography sessions. Is there anyone who want to open camera? Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Smile. 1, 2, 3. Freestyle. 1, 2, 3. Okay, to all participants, your cooperation from the beginning of the program until now is deeply appreciated. We are sorry for all inconvenience and hoping for our next meeting in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Humaira.